So we'll do the prayer, the offering prayer, on page 25. Let's just do a bit of imagining first, a bit of visualizing. So, first of all though, let's try and remember, just be clear about why it's useful to make offerings to the Buddhas. Normally the only reason we offer something to somebody is because we tend to think that they'd like it and they need it, you know. But obviously if you're a Buddha, there's no need to have offerings. It's just meaningless. So we have to see it as a really excellent practice for ourselves. And if you see any virtue you know, anything you do that's good to others, you give something to other. Of course the person gets what they want, but you create merit, you create virtue, because everything you do in your mind that's virtuous leaves it to virtuous imprint. You can't avoid it, you know. You can't avoid it. And so, as we've been talking, you know, power of the object business, one of the major practices we can do, and sometimes it takes time to even want to do it, but if you see the logic of it, you're happy to do it. And that's a crucial part of, you know, a person's practice, certainly in the Tibetan tradition. A major part of your practice is to create bucket loads of merit, to purify your mind and create merit. And the simplest, the quickest, the most profound and easy way to do that is in relation to the Buddhas. So the water bowl offerings. You know, 100,000 making water bowl offerings, making all the light offerings, doing the prostrations. Because the object of one's offering and prostration is an enlightened being, for this reason it's such a powerful practice. It purifies your mind hugely. So, you know, it isn't reasonable to you, logical. And it's, they're marvelous practices to do. And all the people who've done lots and lots and lots of these, because they talk about nondro, preliminary practices, and there are sets of 100,000, in certain traditions of at least 4 of these. You do 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 water bowls, 100,000 Vajrasattva mantras, and 100,000 refuge, say, or mandala offerings, whatever. And then in the Galupas we have like 9, and you do 100,000 of these different practices. They're all in relation to the Buddha. And everybody I've spoken to who's done them, they all say this. For example, making 100,000 water bowl offerings, there's something about it that's kind of subtle, that you really can feel some benefits in it. And it's really emphasized, you know, in the Tibetan tradition. So here, we visualize all the Buddhas in the universe, all the holy beings, all the Dakinis, all the Dakas, all the protectors, all the holy beings in the universe. We can also imagine all the realms of existence, all the beings of the God realms, all the beings of the human realms, all the beings of the animal realm, all the beings of the spirits, all the beings of the hell realms, all the sentient beings pervading space, trillions and trillions and trillions. All the Buddhas are blissing out and happy, and all the suffering sentient beings are suffering like crazy, you know, in their miseries. I mean, the Rinpoche does all these practices. I don't know it. Do you know it, Al? Offering, the multiple way. I never do it. Do you know it? Do you ever do it? The way he does all the multiple offerings. So I just have to make something up, I think. Whatever. Wing it. Yeah, that's right. So it's just, it's the thing of thinking big, as much as possible, as big as possible, as many as possible. The more the better. The bigger the better, you know? Truly, like that. So we imagine all the holy beings, all the suffering sentient beings, and we're going to make trillions and trillions and trillions of offerings. We've got these, you know, 42 little candles here, or however many. But we're going to do this little offering, the offering prayer, and then the offering multiplying them. Trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions, pervading space. And then we're going to do the imagining of them all receiving the joy of receiving it, and taking away all the suffering of the sentient beings, and making all the holy beings blissful. So we just do like that. And keep remembering, every thought we have is a karma, which is an intention, therefore leaves a seed. So the more good thoughts, the better. It's such a simple way. When we understand what this means, it's just easy way to create the virtuous seeds in the mind. You just daydream about good things. Of course, mostly we don't want it. It's too boring, unless we're the recipient. You know, we only think about good things when we're getting them. So it's kind of boring to think about giving good things to Buddhas. It doesn't excite us so much, but we'll do our best. Try and get it excited. Huh? Well, it's the same as 25, isn't it? Or is it another lot? Oh, that lot. We'll do that at the end then. We'll do that at the end of the day to multiply all our merit. Do it. Thank you so much. So, I've got this 10-foot person's bell and dorothy here, so we'll see if it'll ring. I've never had such a big bell in my life. We'll see. Okay, so we'll do the offering prayer first. In Tibetan and in English, page 25. May human and divine offerings. So think of the meaning first. Let's think of the meaning. Human and divine offerings, meaning all the things that human beings and divine beings would enjoy. And then we think all the ones actually arranged, here they are, and all the ones in the rest of the place, all the lights, all the water bowls we've done today. Thank you, Wendy, whoever did them. Thank you, Craig, whoever did. And mentally created. This is a really important point. All the ones you can imagine in your mind, as big as you can imagine. And our minds are limitless. So we just, so we think, okay, all these lights here, trillions, all the sky full of all the trillions of stars, all the lights in everybody's houses, all the lights in all the monasteries in Tibet, all the lights in all the monasteries in India, all the lights in all the Buddhist houses throughout the universe, all the electric lights in all the countries in the entire world. Think, all these lights, okay? They're all lights. They're all lights. Trillions, trillions, trillions. So we think of all of these. These are the mentally created ones, as well as the 2.5 here. You understand? So this makes it so marvelous from one's own mind. Expanding your mind is so excellent. Clouds of finest. So we do. May human and divine offerings, actually arranged and mentally created, clouds of finest Samantabhadra offerings, fill the entire space. Here is some bodhisattva who's really famous for making masses of offerings. So they're always quoted when it comes to offering. Okay, that'll do. So now we sing this mantra. Catch up as much as you can. And 3 times, and imagine all these trillions of lights, which we've already said, all the skies and all the moons, all the stars and all the things, and all the lights and all the houses and all the monasteries and all this and all here, everywhere. We multiply them now still more limitlessly. Imagining this. You've got to sing really this great big thing. I can't. Oh my God. Om Namo Bhagavate Vajrasattva Pramajanaye Tathagata Arahate Samyaksam Buddhaya Tayata Om Vajre Vajre Mahavajre Mahateja Vajre Mahavidya Vajre Mahabodhi Chita Vajre Mahabodhi Mando Pasam Kamana Vajre Sarva Kama Avarana Vishodana Vajre Soha Om Namo Bhagavate Vajrasattva Pramajanaye Tathagataya Arahate Samyaksam Buddhaya Chayata Om Vajre Vajre Mahavajre Mahateja Vajre Mahavidya Vajre Mahabodhi Chita Vajre Mahabodhi Mando Pasam Kramana Vajre Sarva Kama Avarana Vishodana Vajre Soha Om Namo Bhagavate Vajrasattva Pramajanaye Tathagataya Arahate Samyaksam Buddhaya Chayata Om Vajre Vajre Mahavajre Mahateja Vajre Mahavidya Vajre Mahabodhi Chita Vajre Sarva Kama Avarana Vishodana Vajre Soha. And then we do the power of the truth. By the power of truth of the 3 rare sublime ones, the blessings of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the great wealth of the completed 2 collections, may these piles of clouds of offerings arising through transformation by the Bodhisattvas, Arya, Samantabhadra, Manjushri, and so forth, unimaginable and inexhaustible, equaling the sky, arise, and in the eyes of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions be received. Okay. And so now we just imagine, or we just, like we said, be received. So imagine all the holy beings, all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, all the Dakinis, the Kainis, Dhammapakas, pervading space, all in the form of our own Lama, if we have a Lama, trillions and trillions and trillions of them. Imagine all them, experiencing all the bliss of receiving these offerings. So blissful. The Lamas over says, and the Lamas say in Tantra, that's the very essence of the meaning of the word offering. To see the recipients experience the joy of receiving. So we saw all the holy beings blissing out, even more blissful, amazing. And now we think of all the suffering sentient beings, pervading space, all the realms of existence. And we think that offering these lights somehow completely transforms their mind, takes away all their suffering, completely removes their suffering. Imagine just the relief, the immense bliss and relief of being removed from suffering. And all the causes of suffering that relieve them. And they're all, and they receive happiness. All the things they want. The dogs get their food, and the ants get their things, and the lions get their, well, not their buffaloes. They get what they want. You make them happy. Sentient beings. And then we turn them into Buddha. You see them all turning into a Buddha, becoming terminated. All these life offerings when they achieve this. The suffering is all gone. The happiness is fully achieved. And they become enlightened beings. And just for a few minutes as we're thinking this, just thinking in it, we just say a few mantras of terminated. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay. You just leave them all there. So I'll just have a short night, I think. I don't know. What do we do? So where we left off before, isn't it? We've got tomorrow, so we're okay. We're going to finish. We're fine. Just to make sure we cover everything. So do you have any questions? We haven't had any discussion today, much. Do you have any questions from the discussion about emptiness? Maybe we'll talk a bit more about emptiness before we do a little practice and then go to bed. Good. Oh, like a pond. Okay. Trees are in the pond, but the pond is empty with the trees. Oh dear. I don't know what kind of penny that is. It sounds a nice penny. It sounds a nice penny, but I'm not sure if it's the right penny. I mean, okay, let's look at that analogy. Sort of something in there, yes. Okay. No, okay, I can see I can see. Exactly, I understand. So it was interesting, but what I was getting from that one, which I think is always a good analogy I like to use, is the way the mind works. The pond is like the mind. And when the mind is disturbed, turbulent, the water is turbulent, the tree looks all crooked, doesn't it? Doesn't it? This is a different discussion now. And we, of course, because our mind is turbulent, and then so when you look in the pond, the tree looks like an ugly broken tree. And so we believe in the appearance. But when the mind is clear and still and not polluted and not deluded, the tree is reflected accurately. So it's something in there what you're saying. Yeah, that sounds good. Good. So not to believe in the appearance. So yes, the mind reflects what... That's what they say. It's interesting. The way they say the mind cognizes things, which is very abstract for our mind, because that pond is a nice analogy. The way that I was saying, that remember the definition of mind is that which is clear or luminous, which is inferring that it's not physical. This is the crucial key. In other words, it's the substantial character, the substance of something is what they talk about. The substantial cause of the cup has to be some substance, the substance of the clay. So the substance of mind is, they say literally, is clarity, meaning it's not physical. And then its job, its function, is to cognize. So obviously its job is to cognize that which exists. So, the way they say, which is the pool analogy, the pond analogy, the way the mind cognizes is as a mirror. It reflects. So more and more it's an interesting analogy. The mind merely reflects that which exists. That's how it cognizes. It reflects. So it's an interesting analogy. That's one. It reflects that which exists. So when the mind is unpolluted, when there are no delusions, when the mind is clear, when the mind is not contaminated by the delusions, then it reflects exactly what is there, like the pond in the field. That's a good analogy. So the key thing is when the mind is turbulent and it's reflecting inaccurately what's happening because of the turbulence. So our turbulence, the delusions, the turbulence in the mind, the delusions, is what causes things to look wrong. And at least if we remember that, we can stand, stop still and check. When I'm angry, when I see ugly person, beautiful person, divine this, gorgeous that, when I hear a sound that distresses me, do not believe in what you're seeing. Check in your mind, because that is what is causing it to look wrong. So the more and more we go, the more it's a very good analogy for the way the mind cognizes. And when we remember this, we're really on track. Because most of the time we're just sucking into the appearances. Whatever appears out there, there's no millimeter of space. We just believe it's true. You must be a creep. It must be a bad sound. It must be a good thing. It must be delicious. We don't ever question. And this is incredible. To start to question the way our mind, what our mind is cognizing. And the simplest thing is if it looks more delicious than we really think and we go towards it, that's attachment polluting. If it's more ugly than we really think and we go away from it, that's aversion. And all the others are all lies in their own way. And then of course ignorance, seeing it as self-existent, which is the hardest lie to see of all. So that we left it with this. We left it with looking at what we're discussing, because we're discussing the two last perfections, remember? Concentration. And we talked a bit about that, so we'll talk about that again. We didn't do that today. Basically, for calm abiding, we need to achieve this state of mind called calm abiding, which is a simple way of putting it. Okay, the way they say is there's two main obstacles in the mind that at this very moment are preventing us from accessing the subtler level and achieving this state called calm abiding, which is a really subtle state of incredible focus at a subtler level. The reason, there's a multitude, but the essential two main obstacles to the accomplishment of this calm abiding, which are the two main things as you go through the process of developing it, are the two main things you're watching out for like a hawk and going between to adjust the mind between, are the two extreme states of either dullness, you space out, which is the gross level of that is sleep, isn't it? Or overexcited. So your mind can't focus, because either as soon as you calm down, which is what's necessary in concentration, that's why they call it calm abiding, the mind has got to be absolutely still. But the second our mind gets still, look what happens. We go to sleep. Don't we? We go to sleep. Or we just become sort of heavy and try to meditate, the mind just becomes dull. So as you progress through these 9 stages of single point of concentration, the obvious obstacles are this extreme overexcitement when the mind just literally, you forget what you're doing and you're off following all your stories, which is so typical. Or you start to calm, you relax, but you've lost any alertness and the mind just sinks into this dull state. And it's very gross and obvious in the beginning. But they say as you progress, it gets more and more tricky. Because as the mind gets more subtle, they even talk about achieving subtle dullness. And you can easily mistake that for calm abiding. Easily. It's subtle. I mean, way beyond the level we're at now. The mind is really calm. So you need really good instruction from excellent teachers and merit and purification to do it properly. It's a very fine ability to really distinguish what is the correct state of mind. But basically the two extremes, you're going essentially in these 9 stages, you're going through ever more subtle levels of these 9 stages, of conquering the two enemies of excitement and dullness. So it's interesting, and this is my way of saying it, but this state of concentration, it's got to have two characteristics. One is, or it's not me saying, it's just the way I'm saying it. It's got to have absolute sharpness, absolute clarity. And if you think about our excited mind, which is the sort of proactive getting things done mind all day, it's really, we're sharp as a needle when you're wide awake and wound up and getting things done. It's a really sharp state of mind. You're quick, you do this, you do that, you get things. The mind is super active, and there's a real sharp clarity about that mind. Are you seeing what I'm saying? It's very bright and sharp. But it's berserk. Do you understand? And then you look at the other extreme, which is this dullness. Like I said before, it's very calm. When you're asleep, you're really calm, aren't you? If you're not dreaming. You're completely calm if you're not dreaming. So dullness is there's a calmness there, isn't there? But you're thick and heavy and it's useless. So the overexcitement, it's almost like, this is my way of saying it now, what we've got to retain, what we've got to do in this single point of concentration, it's almost like we have to learn to find the sharpness without the berserk and the calm without the dull. And that's a virtually impossible place for us. And that's why it takes so long to do. They say even if you're really qualified, you could do it in 18 months. But most people spend years and years and years because you're just not qualified. And the prerequisites to be qualified are quite intense. You need, I forget all of this, but to be qualified to even go to the mountain, to get single point of concentration, and this is not even talking to do Patrick retreat, you need to have completely subdued your mind in daily life, completely gone beyond really strong attachment and anger and jealousy and depression, all that stuff. You really are already quite stable, quite a good practitioner. Your mind is really stable. You're really balanced emotionally. You've got no strong attachments. You've got no strong demands in society. You can't have kids and husbands and houses and mortgages and all that stuff. That's got to be absolutely out the window. Because you've got to be able to turn your back and just keep walking. And leave everything. We know ourselves why much of the time we can't even meditate because we're worrying about this and worrying about that and thinking about what he thinks and thinking about what she's supposed to do in your jobs for tomorrow. We can't even leave all that stuff alone. So you've got to be way beyond all that. And then on a very personal level, you've got to be very, very content with any food at all. And this is the biggest one for us. We're the most neurotic. I mean, even when I remember as a kid, you just drank coffee. Who's heard of an allergy? There must have been some. But look at the sophistication of our allergies and our detail with food these days. Every single menu has to have triple different kind of things. The neuroses of our food now and all our sicknesses is unbelievable. But to be able to simply accept what you're given and be content with it and absolutely not care about food, you've got to have that. You're going to be in the mountains, eating rubbish. And of course you've got to be utterly content within yourself because you're going to be isolated. Best is to be completely isolated, leave the world and disappear off the face of the earth. That's the best solution, best scenario for meditation. There's no worldly demands. There's no worrying about what people think. There's no one around you to think about what they're thinking of you. There's no one thinking about you, thinking about them, or them thinking about you. Best is to never see anybody and have nobody see you. This is the best way to do retreat. Go off like a dog, let's say, like a dog who's going to die. That's the best way to do retreat. Because we're so caught up in feelings and thoughts and worries, and even the thing is, and this is one about reputation, even you've given up all those things in the world, you're up in your cave, and you're still thinking about what people are thinking of you. So you've got to have such a powerful mind already, a developed mind, a steady mind, a calm mind, be content with anything, and then you've got to find the right place, and you're going to be in a place where, if you're not like Geshe Lama Control, who just lived on the air, lived on Chulen, wind Chulen, lived on the air, literally. I mean, that's a good sign. Very good sign. They're all purifying like crazy. Maybe we're all going to go off to get realizations. What's happening? Oh, that's all. That's death. That's death. The last bright light of the candle is the last sign of death. So it's a good sign or it's a sign of death, one or the other. Let's wait till they come. How many people does it take to stop a candle from burning out?
5.
Are we okay? All right. Ask me a question, Fiona. Oh, only if you sustain them. You can easily lose. Yeah, God, Fiona, the Buddha says we've had high realizations, cities, fly in the sky, clairvoyance, countless lives. We haven't realized anything, so we lose the plot. I think they say, I don't know all exactly the levels, I'm very sorry, I haven't studied it in depth enough, but even the highest bodhicitta, because until you realize emptiness, if you become like an Arya bodhisattva, I think you can lose the plot again. Bodhicitta is pretty intense, so I mean that seems pretty shocking. But until you've got emptiness, you're always in danger. And I mean, yeah, it's like if you don't pray, if you're practicing piano, if you pray every single day, you keep it fresh. If you stop for a while, you'll be there kind of intuitively, but you'll forget it. Isn't it? So you've got to keep practicing it. But of course you take them all, the realization of anger and killing and lying and stealing, you take them very deeply to the next life. No problem with them. They're really good realizations, those ones. They're really deeply ingrained. So concentration is this like almost an invisible place between excitement and dullness. And much of the practice, as you progress in these stages, it seems, is alert to the two dangers and constantly adjusting yourself. And then you get, it's very, I haven't done these retreats, I don't know. But if you read the instructions, I think, of Ronko Rinpoche, my iPad again, it's a book in it, I'm going to read you some stuff about them. Never mind. Yeah. I think so. Yes, I think so. Do you mind? Please. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Gosh. Thank you. Yeah. So concentrate, calm abiding it's called. And we've got to start somewhere, so we start a little bit every day. There's nothing wrong with that. But my feeling is most of us, let's say, we don't achieve that in this life. But still, just to do some focusing every day is such a good practice. And my feeling is, my own experience is, that almost immediately what you do develop, which is what we absolutely have to develop, is the beginnings of distinguishing between the thing that you're seeing out there and the mind that sees it. You start to get some clarity about the object and the mind and how they're not the same. You understand? And that's massive. That's huge. Because right now, it's like we're absorbed, aren't we, in all our thoughts and feelings and emotions. And we can't separate between what's going on in here and what I'm seeing out there. So, in other words, when I'm angry with Porrick, I can't separate between what he's doing and what I'm feeling. They seem the same to me. We're absorbed in the object. You understand? And so to be able to step back and start getting some clarity and distinguishing the difference between what he does and what I think he's doing, that's a big deal. And that's being your own therapist. So we've got to step back. And the fact, also the point is, much of the time, we're unaware of what our mind is doing because we're not paying attention to it. The only time we notice the consequences of what we're thinking and feeling is when it's painful, when it's extreme. When the anger is exploding out your mouth, you can't help but notice the agitation. When you're depressed and can't get out of bed one morning, you can't help but notice. But so it's way too late to wait till then to notice what your mind's doing. Way too late. That's like, like I said, it's like driving 120 k's an hour at the freeway and you're about to crash. And you realise you can't drive. And you say, what can I do? A bit late. Nothing. Damage control, cross your fingers. In other words, you're in the midst of a fight, shouting and yelling, and I have no tools, I don't know how to work with my mind, and I say, what can I do when I get angry? Not much. It's too late to wait to work on the anger. You've got to get back to the back streets and start learning how to drive a car. I've got to start looking at my mind, learning how to drive me. You get my point? So that when I am, so then what you do is you avoid the accident if you can, because you see what's coming. So when I'm looking into my mind, because I'm aware of what's happening underneath, and it goes ever deeper, you can hear you see the signs well before it comes out the mouth. That's the real skill we have to learn. And of course, making vows every day, commitments every day to control our mouth, helps all that. So from doing some focused watching your mind, watching the breath even, it helps you to step back. And then because even when you're watching your breath, you can't help but notice all the thoughts popping up, which you wouldn't have paid attention to before. But now you're being quiet. And of course, one of the signs is you think you're getting worse, but you're not. You're seeing your mind. You know, like I said, one of my friends in New York went off to 1 year retreat, one year Nyingma Center in France. And she went back home and said, Robina, I have to go back again. I just began to see my mind. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Then she died anyway, so whatever. But, 3 years of full-on, silent, strict retreat, just beginning to see my mind. So way to go. And this concentration, it is utterly impossible to get realizations unless you're very, very blessed and have immense guru devotion and are a very special, highly realized being from past life of enormous merit. Generally speaking, it is impossible to get realizations until we have access to, thank you so very much, this subtler level of our mind, So what is nice just to read out, just for the imprints, is Pabonka Rinpoche's his summary in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand of these 9 stages. It will seem a bit abstract to us, but it's really, really good imprints for the mind. Very good. Liberation in the palm of your hand, really. Maybe it can tingle. Dr. Ibox. Okay. All right. Summarize. And then we can talk a bit about the 6th perfection in a particular way. This method is the 4-point analysis, which is another approach to seeing it. It's a very true method to see it. Because the translation in this book for calm abiding is mental clear. I'm saying a little lesson. Okay. All right, really brief. And it just sounds abstract to us because we don't understand. But in the first, there's 9 stages you go through. In the first state, your insight acquaints you with your conceptual thoughts. In the second state, you gain some insight into what it is like when your conceptual thoughts take a rest. This is the second stage. The first one is even recognizing your conceptual thoughts, and we think we do that already. And that's already the first stage of the 9. You've got somewhere. For the second one, you gain some insight into what it's like when your conceptual thoughts take a rest. Just those words, don't they sound lovely? And of course, we take a rest every night when we go to sleep, but we're dull and thick and stupid and just create the thoughts to become an animal. This is taking a rest while you're conscious. In the third, it seems as if these conceptual thoughts have exhausted themselves. God, that sounds wonderful. That's just the third state. To summarize, in states 1 and 2, the image remains only This is assuming you're using the image of the Buddha as your focal point, not the breath, okay? Just a while. In states 2 and 3, your distraction lasts only a short while. It's amazing. I just heard you. The difference between states 3 and 4 is whether or not it is possible for you to lose, they call it the meditation device or the meditation object, and in this case it would be the image of the Buddha, to lose it. In the 4th state you develop coarse, what they call coarse dullness, but not in the 5th. In the 5th you have to be aware of subtle dullness, but not in the 6th. Though you develop subtle excitement in the 6th, it's less than you had before. In the 6th, you have to be particularly on your guard against slipping into subtle dullness or excitement. There's no need for this in the 7th. In the 7th, you have excitement and dullness, but not in the 8th. In the 8th, you depend on effort, but not in the 9th. It seems so abstract, actually. It doesn't even say anything to it. So in the 7th state, you... one good thing is to hear, I remember I mentioned this to you, just to indicate something. Our friend, Renee, the monk, he does years retreats, and when I interviewed him, I mentioned this several times, interviewed him at Kopan Monastery about his retreat at Ursel Ling, when I talked about meeting him for security guard and Dalai Lama and blah, blah, that was this, remember? And this is the part that's tasty, which I did mention a few days ago. He was doing this, 9 stages meditation. He said he got to about, touched upon the 5th stage. And this is to show the tasty part. He said, first of all, remember he said his mind got more subtle more quickly at Kopan because one of the main prerequisites for a place that's appropriate for retreat is a place that's been blessed by the presence of previous meditators. And that's a busy place. So that shows it has to be some special place. He said he knew when he was in Ursula he couldn't get further at this stage because your mind gets incredibly supple and the tiniest change in the weather can really affect you. Your mind is very susceptible to all kinds of conditions, So you have a very strong mind, actually, to be in. Like, for example, they'd say to be, when you meditate, you have no running water. It can be very disturbing to the mind. No wild animals, this kind of thing. Very peaceful, quiet, this kind of thing. So anyway, he said he just touched on the 5th stage. And I really am, I don't know exactly the words he said now, I can't remember, but it was something like, there was no question that the bliss he experienced in his own mind, without depending on any external object, just touched upon the 5th stage. It was infinitely superior to any bliss he'd ever experienced through his senses. But that for me is the most tasty indicator of just the intensity of this, of the capability of our mind. But your mind, this is the point again, I was mentioning with Jane, talking to Jane, well, no, was that I think, wasn't it? Yeah, when we're describing, which is so important to get clear. So we have this mind full of all these concepts, all these thoughts about things, all these misconceptions about crooked trees, because our minds are stirred by those concepts. And we have all these imprints, all these tendencies that are informing every experience. And then because we're sensory, in the sensory body, we're addicted to the experience triggered by contact. Okay. First point, we're in these bodies. Conceptual states, totally disturbed, distorting what we see, plus the karmic imprints. So, then we have this other one. Remember, we have this state of mind called feeling. Like I said, when we study the Buddhist text on the mind, one packaging of the states of mind called always present states of mind, always present mental factors. One is called feeling. Like I said, one's called discrimination. One's called contact, one's called attention, one's called intention. There are 5, and they're all functioning every second. Intention and attention, contact, discrimination, and feeling. 5. They're called the always present mental factors. They're all working hand in hand to make the mind function from moment to moment. Discrimination is this really crucial kind of intelligence that is the capability to discriminate between this and that, whatever it might be. And we clearly need that to practice the spiritual path. Contact is what arises when you have the sense, the sense consciousness, for example, the object, the blue, and contact is a state of mind. It's triggered by, intention It's when your mind meets jelly. And intention is the meaning of karma. Intention. It takes you to, it draws you to the object, it drives you to the object, it propels you to the object. Alex Burton translates it as an urge. And then you have attention, where you pay attention to that particular thing. These five are working hand in hand. The fifth one, like I said, is feeling. So you see, the eye consciousness sees shape and colour. The discrimination works away and in the mental consciousness, and you're able to access the label called chocolate cake. Attachment is sitting in the mind, instantly rises, and because you're familiar with it, you recognise it. It's stored away in your memory, and then feeling is triggered. In this case, a pleasant feeling. Attachment comes in, makes it look more delicious than it really is. All of this is happening in a millisecond, like I said, quicker than Google. And then it triggers feeling, and in this case, a pleasant feeling. So we assume that the chocolate cake is the cause of the good feeling. But as we're talking, feeling, good feeling, is simply in this store, is one of the trillions, hopefully, of fruits of a virtuous action stored away in your mind. You've got trillions of seeds in your mind from having done virtuous actions, and every time you meet an object that your attachment makes look more delicious, it triggers one of those karmic seeds of virtue, and it ripens as a good feeling. But we wrongly assume that the cake is the cause of the good feeling, so we then wrongly assume I'd better have the cake again, and again, and again. So when the fisherman, the little boy I always quote, when he saw fishing, the karmic imprint from killing triggered, attachment ripened, made it look delicious, it triggered a good feeling, so logically fishing must cause it, so he kept fishing. Whereas in reality, the feeling, as I said, is literally the fruit of a virtuous seed you planted in your mind in the past. Pleasant feelings are the fruit of a virtuous seed. Unpleasant feelings are the fruit of a non-virtuous seed. Meaning suffering feelings are the fruit of a non-virtuous karmic seed that you planted in the past by doing something negative. So every millisecond of the day, we all know we've either got a pleasant feeling, an unpleasant feeling, or a neutral feeling. So anyway, but the point I'm getting at is, what Buddha's saying is, our minds, when it's in its natural state, which is clear and unencumbered by delusions, then there is only virtue there. Therefore, you can only ever have pleasant feelings, because virtue causes them. So you don't need to eat a cake to feel pleasure. You don't need to have sex, contact with a physical body to have pleasure. You don't need to see things that would to trigger pleasure. But this is the suffering of this desire realm. We don't know how to trigger that pleasure unless we contact a pleasant, a sense object that we're attached to. Are we communicating? And it's tragic. It's heartbreaking. In other words, everything in us is lying to us. So all Buddha's saying is, by practicing, doing concentration, just concentration, forget any practicing virtue, by subduing your mind at the gross level, which is where all the conceptual stories are, which are the delusions, by subduing the conceptual delusions but not going to sleep. You subdue your conceptual delusions, your concepts every time you go to sleep, but you're dull, you're absolutely ignorant, you're asleep, there's no awareness. So what a meditator is doing is stopping the nonsense, all the stories, all the concepts, but stays conscious at a subtler level. So there's Renee, even just touching on the fifth of 9 stages of single point of concentration. And so he's triggering already, because he's quieted the gross level, the neuroses, therefore suffering stops in the mind. Not all the way yet, only the fifth. And he's experiencing phenomenal his own store of virtue. He's experiencing bliss. As he said, superior than any experience he'd ever had through his senses, which is the only way, as junkies, of course, we're all junkies, that's what attachment is, the only way we know how to access. So all this stuff happening in the mind, it's all so spontaneous, and we never, ever, ever, ever question it. That's the tragedy. So this is really quite precise and clear, but it takes so long to get it, you know. Are we communicating? Go. Sorry? Yes. 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 Precisely. 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 So okay, every pleasant feeling is like it's like every dollar you see in your account is the fruit of hard work in the past. So every pleasant feeling that you experience in a day, as many moments as you can count of those pleasant feelings, each one is a fruit. No, you don't get a pleasant feeling from cake. Okay. No, there's nothing. Yes, I'm saying the cake is merely a catalyst. The cake, listen. Well, I'm telling you, and we're talking about it. So listen. The nature of this body of ours, right, is that it does, you know, if you stab somebody, it causes intense pain, right? You agree? And that's a very unpleasant feeling, wouldn't you agree? So when you meet a knife, it's an unpleasant feeling. When you meet a cake, it's a pleasant feeling. So it's the nature of this body. It's not wrong. It's what happens. This body, this is how it works. We are sensory beings, and by definition need sensory objects. An eye needs shapes and colours. Ear needs sound. This needs tactile. Tongue needs taste. This is the nature of the senses. It's the nature of them. And the nature of this samsara that we live in, right? This, you understand? This is the nature of it. So it is, in fact, when you do eat cake, it does trigger a good feeling. I'm not saying it doesn't. But what I'm saying is we are mistaken in thinking that that's the only way to trigger that pleasure. First of all, in the world, in the sensory world, we assume it's the only way to get pleasure is to have a nice girlfriend and have cake like that. Otherwise, we sit there miserable and deeply dissatisfied, don't we? Desperately craving for something. Wouldn't you agree? This is the nature of the sensory world. We are all junkies. That's attachment, making us mad. So it is true that when I eat cake, it does trigger a good feeling. No denying. But all I'm saying is, Buddha says, we don't need to eat cake to get good feelings. What? No, you didn't. You didn't misunderstand me. I didn't say there's not. No, there is a link. Yeah, but the way to understand it correctly is that there is a store. Okay, put it this way. Let's say you're always sick, and some people are always sick, wouldn't you agree? No matter how much cake they get, they never get pleasant feelings, do they? That's a condition called sickness, but mainly they've got no karma to feel pleasure. Some people live in pain all their lives. Wouldn't you agree? Because they can only access their negative karmic seed, because ripening is suffering every second, every second, every second, every second. So all I'm saying is this. We think I'm this innocent victim just sitting there blank and empty, and I have a nervous system. And then I need to eat cake to trigger the nice nervous feelings. But we don't realise, we have to factor in that I've got a store of seeds from past virtue in my mind stream, and that their fruit is a pleasant feeling. Pleasant feeling is a fruit of a virtuous seed. If I've never created virtue, I'll never be able to even have a good feeling. Of course, you must make as much as possible. And when you've removed all the delusions, when you have the purification, you've only got good left. So Buddha's only experienced bliss, only experienced love, only experienced compassion. There's no other possibility. Huh? No, it's excellent to remember it. At least it's a little carrot for us until we are genuinely compassionate. We need lots of carrots. Really, I'm serious. We need lots of carrots. We need lots of reasons to make us do virtues, because we're all such children, we're all just such donkeys. We've got to find tricks to make us want to practice virtue. So we can think logically that virtue will bring me happiness. This is what Buddha's saying right at the beginning. Don't be apologetic about it, please.
Well, what I'm saying is actions have a certain type of feeling.
Oh, what do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean? Yes, you can. What are you suggesting? Okay, that's a different discussion, darling. No, that's a different discussion. But that's a different discussion. Because the pleasant feeling you have now is still the result of a past virtue, not the present one. Seeds don't ripen straight away. You understand? And how wonderful that we can feel good when we do virtue. That's fantastic. But at least what you're doing there, you're using up one of the seeds from the past by feeling good, but you just created another one, didn't you? That's the best way. Do you see? So this is what Buddha's saying. It's such a technical, simple point. What he's saying about karma, it's so simple, it's like, we just can't hear it though. An action, an intention in the mind, I will give money to poor, right? Motivated by a sincere wish to be generous, be kind to you, that's a virtuous action. That virtuous thought, and then the hand reaching out and doing it, and you receiving it, that's a virtuous karmic action. That is what leaves leaves seeds in my mind that will keep growing and growing and growing and will multiply as millions of very nice, virtuous fruits in the future. One seed brings many, many trees and apples, doesn't it? So one negative seed is the same. One negative seed is killing. If I leave it there, motivated by the wish to harm the mouse, and I don't purify it, it grows and grows and grows and will ripen as many suffering lives and many future sufferings of all the other different kinds. So one of the fundamental laws of karma is virtue ripens in the future as happiness, non-virtue ripens in the future as suffering, and seeds multiply. Karma multiplies. This is a natural law. No one made it up, no one created it, he observed it. And this is what a person is trying to do, to live according to. This is the basic rule. So it's so interesting, though, that every good feeling. And like I said also, that thing about how we have a day of experiences and it's like a seamless movie throughout the day, especially when things are reasonable. You kind of all feels very reasonable. You stop, you start, you go here, you go there, then you go to lunch, and you can look back and it's a fairly smooth day. So we have this illusion of a seamless movie throughout the day. Everything seems to go to the next, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree? Complete lie. You know, as Atisha in London, as he pointed out, was very helpful. He said, when you see a movie, it looks like a seamless thing, all this moving, but in reality, it's actually how many seconds? I don't know. How many frames in a second? How many? 24 frames in a second. 1 second. There are 24 stills, and they're speeding, and it gives the illusion of literally moving. It's not true. Our life is like that. So we've got, so there's 64 moments in a finger snap. Forget about 24 frames in a second. There are 64 moments in a finger snap, and every one of those moments is a karmic seed ripening. So if you've got bucket loads of virtue, like people living in the best suburbs who are rich and beautiful and peaceful and kind, have bucket loads of virtue as well as being virtuous in their mind, but the fruits of virtue. This is just virtuous karmic seeds, millions of them ripening like crazy, one after the other with no space in between. That's called happiness. And it's an illusion of just this thing that's coming from out there and this feeling, oh, aren't I lucky? And it just happens to me. God made me. It's the blessings of the universe. It's the blessings of God. And so we eat it all up like vampires, forgetting that it was seeds we planted. And suddenly we're going to run out of it and all the veggies are gone. So we've got to grow more, So nothing wrong with having happiness. Go for it as much as you like. But remember to keep growing more seeds because you created that happiness. And these moments in a day, there must be millions of moments. And if whether it's suffering never stopping or happiness never stopping, it's those seeds ripening, and they give this feeling of being like a seamless movie moving through. It's just a series of moments, of fruits of seeds ripening. Every single second. Every single second. Every single millisecond is our past karmic seeds ripening as our experiences. ripening as our tendencies, ripening as the environment, the way it appears to us. And it's all, literally in this sense, it's illusory. It looks like a real environment out there. It looks like beautiful, ugly, this, that. It's all just this past karma and our mind interpreting. As Lama Zopa said, when you realize the truth of how things exist, it's as if there's nothing there. But there is. But what does exist is so subtle, it is as if it is an illusion. It's really a tasty statement here. And we cannot understand it without karma, and we can't understand it without emptiness. Emptiness and karma, and the way the mind is, are the keys here. You understand Buddha's view. I know, I don't really understand the Chitta Mantra view enough to say. I don't know. No, I know exactly. I don't know. I don't know. It's a technical way they say it, and I just don't get it. I haven't studied the Chitta Mantra. I can't say it now. I don't know. I don't know if they say it like that. That seems more like prasangika. I don't know. I don't know, Al. I can't even use the words. I can't say it. I don't know. Did you have something? Yeah, John.
Just come back to the objects that create your feeling of
Yeah, that's right. Just the habit, your familiarity with chocolate cake. It's stored in your mind, isn't it? You had it before, you recognise it, you remember the taste, it was pleasant. So. Yeah, I mean, you develop the cake, you know, you might have been born as a Tibetan last life, and then you're an Australian this life, you know, you like your chocolate cake. It's just culture. Tibetans prefer their yapsas, you know. It's just culture, whatever you get used to. This is familiarity. It could even be from past lives. I often joke about some of these young tulkus who love their noodle soup, you know. We can tell they've been Tibetan by the way they have their food. I mean, really, that could be something. It could easily be that. It could even be from past lives. Huh?
How deep should we look into
Into what? How deep you should look into why you like noodle soup. No, it's meaningless. It doesn't matter. It's just familiarity. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know. It's just familiarity. Some people like noodles, some people like meat, some people like this, some people like that. There's familiarity with it, you know. Certain tendencies. I mean, certain karma there. One of my sisters, three of my sisters actually, there's 7 of us, 3 of them are vegetarian. And one's been vegetarian all her life. And she's no interest in Buddhism, not at all religious. And she's been a vegetarian all her life. And I never asked her before, she never goes on about it. And I said to her, why are you vegetarian, Jan? Oh, I just see meat and I see a cow. How can I eat it? I mean, I know it's a cow, but I eat it. I mean, I try not to eat much meat anymore. You understand? I mean, it shows the karmic influence. And 2 of my sisters gave it up, and they're completely not religious. But one of them got so upset for this particular fish that's seen as some kind of specialty, but it's 100 years old and way down in the depths of the ocean. She was so offended for the fish, she became a vegetarian. I'm really moved by that. It's amazing, you know. But just those, whatever the tendencies are, the real ones live in the mind. And how our mind makes things up. You know. Craig, yeah. Doesn't remove the seeds. Realising emptiness removes the seeds. We all should do retreats. No, we all should do retreats, but the basic one is daily practice. The purification practice, these 4 opponent powers, is stupendous. It's massive. It's like an atomic bomb on the delusions. It burns them. It stops them from growing. You stop them from growing. You're holding them all back, but you'll never actually pull the seeds out until you have seen the absence of the ego, the absence of the inherent I. That's what we're talking about. What else do you think we're talking about? Why do you think we keep regretting life since beginning this time? What do you think? Have you heard we've been doing that? Well, that's the previous one. We've got to burn them all and stop them from growing. That's the main thing purification is. And, of course, the 4th step is putting yourself in a new direction. I will not do this, therefore this. So you're programming your mind to go in a new direction. And that's why, you know, often Buddhists, we take initiation to Vajrasattva, don't we? And then we go, oh, I did my Vajrasattva mantras. It's only the 3rd step. Do you understand? You've got to do the... Okay, we've been into this, we do it again. Seeing as we're talking about purification. I was going to have nearly night tonight. 20 to 9, you okay? Okay. We'll just do this. We'll see where we go. Then we'll do a 5-minute meditation. Short on meditation today. So, regret. Remember, regretting, I did this and did that to harm others because I don't want the suffering. Right? Isn't it? That in particular purifies the kind of karma called experiences similar to the cause. So that means when you regret killing, you guarantee in the future life you will not have the experience similar to it, which is getting killed, dying young, or getting sick. Specifically regret. So if you don't want it to happen to you, you better regret. You understand? But it's part of the whole thing, but they've got their own function. They say reliance, which is compassion and refuge, and I think especially compassion, I like this one. This purifies environmental karma. Okay? They have this nice saying that when the ground you fall down on that hurts you is the very ground you rely upon to stand up. So somehow the sentient beings, the very sentient beings you harmed, are those very sentient beings you rely upon to cultivate compassion and become a Buddha, you know. So they say that purifies the environmental. The third one, say in this context, visualizing Vajrasattva and doing the mantra, the actual remedy, that purifies the lower realms. Right? Or prevents it from coming. And then the fourth one, as Pabonka Rinpoche says, the most important and obvious what it purifies, when you make a vow never to kill again, it obviously purifies the tendency to keep killing. Because we have the 4 ways karma right, the lower realm rebirth, the tendency to do it, the experience of it happening to you, and the environmental result. All karmas can ripen any of these 4 ways. So we have to. So you remember the fisherman story? The fisherman story. A little boy I talked about. Did I tell you the result? Did I tell you the whole story? I always tell the whole story. How he went to get on a contract and then he said lower realms. Okay. So, but this one for me is... Huh? Oh yeah, but I've said it so many times before. Every time. I always mention Harry and the fisherman story. The fisherman story, yes, in case. But this little boy, friend of mine, mother, came to me in Copine actually, very distressed. She'd been hearing mothers over talk about karma. And she was telling me about her boy who died, his 29-year-old son, who died 5 years before. Devastated. He'd scuba diving, he'd drowned. And she told me he'd been a fisherman all his life. And this is why this brilliant example about how karma works, how it ripens. So there he is from past lives, he'd been in the lower realms from killing. He finishes that karma. The petrol tank runs out. The karma finishes. Then, like an amazing thing, again, he's got all these virtuous karmic seeds in his mind from the way before that, and one ripens and he gets this decent life. He gets a really good human life, which is the fully ripened result. He's got lots of good tendencies. His mother said he was a kind, intelligent, loving boy. He had excellent experiences similar to the cause. Good family, good friends, support, people, kind, liking him, trusting him, and lots of good environmental karma. He had a really excellent life. All the 4 karmic results were good. But in the tendencies, he had this strong tendency to kill. In his case, fish. So it ripens because he lives in an environment where this fishing was a river, I think, it wasn't a sea, up in Northern California somewhere. So his mother, there was such a stark example. She said he was like 5, I don't remember, 4, 5, when he first saw fishing. So immediately he saw the object. It's like it triggers the memory. He doesn't know there's a memory, but it triggers the karmic imprint, which is sitting there latent until he met fishing. And so then it instantly triggered the strong karmic imprint of habit to kill, and it triggers attachment. Right there, the 2 together. So attachment instantly makes it look divine, completely divine. And so of course it triggers then, attachment triggers a good feeling. So naturally we all want good feelings, we're junkies for good feelings. So of course he logically assumes the fishing causes the good feeling. And then of course because it looks good, it looks wonderful and dazzling, like being in love, you know. So of course he wanted to keep fishing. So he fished all his life. He even called himself salmon. And that means having attachment, and we know this too. You look into your mind, when you're really attached to something, you think about it all the time, you embellish it, you grow it, you think about it, you write about it, you want it, you go out of your way to get it. He completely identified with being a fisherman. was his entire life. This is how attachment ripens. This is how attachment is. Then, second, you can say he was a successful fisherman because hundreds of thousands of sentient beings who, from having a relationship with him in the past and having killed him, as well as others, no doubt, they have the karma to get born fish, and they come running with their open mouths, his bait or whatever it is. He couldn't have been a successful fisherman without fish, right? He wouldn't have kept fishing, he'd make no money. But they were these willing victims to his nets, his hooks, because they had karma with him because of their past killing.
What would come to him? That symbolizes in the past all those people, whatever, be killed.
That's what I'm saying. That's the point. And that's why they're born fish, to be killed. This is the tragedy of samsara. It's utterly heartbreaking. They set themselves up, now they run to his nets, That's the point. It's so tragic. So that he keeps thinking he's a successful fisherman, and the poor fish don't know anything. So then the point is, though, the second he saw fishing, I'm saying, this is how karma ripened. So he's been in the lower realms, finishes that, but the point is this, he doesn't purify the other aspect. He never has regretted killing, so he dies young at the age of 29. And he died scuba diving, maybe he's eaten by the fish, who knows. He got the experience similar to the cause of fishing, he died young. And second, the worst one, he had the tendency to keep killing. So if he had vowed never to kill again, he would wake up in that life with no tendency to kill. That's the tragedy. So he goes right, and then he goes right back to the lower realms. She asked me, what'll I do? I said, go to Geshe Consult. So she asked him, and they rarely tell you what they see. And she said, what's his name? So he checks his inner computer, calls it up, sees exactly. He said, oh yes, first he was born in the animal realm, and now he's in the hell realm. Yeah. And she was moved by it. It was very fascinating. They never tell you. But she said she was moved by it. She said, what will I do for him? He laughed sadly and said, what do you mean for him? For everybody. And it was very moving to her mind. She's not a Buddhist. It really moved her. It was as much as why he told her, But this is why we've got to purify all four aspects. Are you seeing what I'm saying, Craig? It's not enough just to go, you don't want to go to the lower realms and exhaust the karma and then come back with a marvellous, all these virtuous karma ripening, but you've still got a tendency and you die young. That's not so bad. At least you died young, you've created less karma. But the tendency to keep doing it is the worst. That's why the fourth step's the most important. You've got to make this new decision. I will never kill, I will never lie, I will never steal. That's why I've got to keep vows. It's just like getting ahead of the game, But the thing about purification is this again. These four steps actually purify the four kinds of karma. Radically stop them from ripening, stop them from ripening, stop them from ripening, stop them from ripening. So at least when you die, plus you're practicing virtuous practices, you've programmed your mind with all this. So it's no way they can ripen. So next life you'll definitely get a human birth. So you get ahead of the game. You're ahead of the game because you're stopping them from growing. You with me? But then eventually when you're ready and you're getting ahead of them, you'll realize emptiness. And when you realize emptiness, you cut ignorance, which is the root delusion, which is the one that assumes a me, and then stops that, and stops attachment, and stops anger, therefore stops you harming others. And you can't harm others anymore. Well, you've got more to go to practice, but you can't go back once you realize emptiness. That cuts the root. So at least you clean up the karma you've got left. You're still having karma, but you're not creating new karma, because it's ego grasping that causes you to create karma. Ego grasping is the assumption of an I that intends to be attached and intends to be angry. That's what causes negativity. But if there's no longer an assumption of an I, there can't be attachment and there can't be anger. You hearing me? That's how you can't create more karma. Huh? Where's that coming from? Out of the blue. Another chapter. Another book altogether. What's the point? What are you telling me? But did you hear what I was saying about purification? Full stop, new chapter, new book. Now, what's the question? You said it at the very next point, I was confused. Go on. Go. Okay, the point in that literally is that when our mind is virtuous all the time, and especially sees everything as a holy being, of course you're creating bucket loads of virtue. You get enlightened very quickly. Of course you would. That's technically correct. Because you're only having virtue, aren't you? And especially you're seeing everyone as a Buddha. You're going to get enlightened very quickly. Of course it's logical. Can you hear how the logic? But it's not that easy yet. Got to purify the mind first and do all these other things. So are we communicating about purification here? Okay, why don't we go to bed? What, darling? Yes. Go, no, come on. Yes. Cool. I know. That's how we are. I know. That's how we are. You don't need to go to the extent that we're doing it. It's good to do it in a retreat thing, but we can remember quickly. And you see, until we do the four opponent powers, we're not really purifying. You're being nice to the masters. That's pretty good. But you've got to be more. If we really understand karma, that it's precise. It's like if you're trying to grow a magnificent garden, you've got to do your watering every day. You just don't go with the hose and then go back again. You just don't do that because you know it'll all dry up and it won't grow. We know that because we know it's real and practical, but we don't think of this stuff as real and practical. We just think it's holy. That's why. So until you really understand regret and feel it, you can't totally purify the experiences. And you won't really purify. Lama Zopa says regret's the most important. Trivulva says the other one's important. Because the regret has to be your sick of suffering. It has to be renunciation. So if you don't have it, it's just too perfunctory, as you said, it's too cursory. Better than nothing, sweetheart. But you've got to do a bit more. But even you can do it quickly, but mean it sincerely. You say the words, I regret anything I've ever done since the beginning of this time to have any sentiment, because I do not want that suffering. And the penny drops there. And then, especially your vows, if you've got vows, you've got to regret those, because you don't want to break your samaya, because I don't want suffering. At least you say that you're linking your negativity with your suffering, and you're reminding yourself that's what you're doing. Otherwise, it's just holy. And then the last one, you've got to, you've taken vows, obviously. You must. You're mad, girl. You must say, I will never break my body like that. I will never break my body like that. I will never. You've got to say this. Why do you think, do you have a daily life? Do you go to work and study? What do you do? Oh, well done. Okay. My God. Well, okay, in your job, though, you need to be very precise. You have to have facts and figures and details. You have to make decisions, and I'll do this, and I'll do that, and I won't do this. You have to be very clinical and very clear. Well, dear, what makes you think this is different? Intention means karma. And the more precise your intention, the more clear you are about regret, the more clear each thing is like being a gardener, being a prosecutor. It's real, actual facts, not just some kind of nice figure. So put a little level to it. That's exactly how we all are, believe me. Even you can do quick, but mean it and get the logic of it. Do you understand? Then it's really worthwhile. Do you understand? Yes. What did you retire from being a prosecutor for? Why did you retire from being a prosecutor? Or why did you resign? What do you mean? For retiring or for resigning or doing the job? Why did you stop being a prosecutor? Oh, I see. The job of being a prosecutor. I see. Okay. Attachment to what? Why were you crying for him? Because you were glad you were with him. Or you were sad. Oh, you mean that's not attached, that's called compassion. What do you mean about attached? What do you mean? What do you mean attached to him? You mean you fell in love with the defendant? What are you saying? But that's not attachment, darling, that's compassion. Don't be mean to yourself, that's compassion, that's perfectly fine. And I agree, it's heavy duty to be a prosecutor, to want to make people go to prison, to want to find them guilty. That's quite heavy karma, so you're right. It's a good job to do maybe in the world. So what are you going to do now? Be a defender? Take the opposite side. What are you going to do? You're not sure yet. Go on. Oh, okay. I'd like to do that instead. Good. Have you saved a few dollars from your job? Go off to Nepal and become a nun or something. Have you thought of that? Oh, I beg your pardon, that's no good. Well, he could leave him like the Buddha did. I'm joking. I don't know why I said that. I never said we could go and be a nun. Well, good. So do a bit deeper. I mean, we do it, we go a bit detailed here. Just to try to get it clear, the meaning. Otherwise, it's so superficial. Isn't it? I mean, we're all old ladies do our Vajrasattva, don't we? You know? I did my Vajrasattva today. While you're doing the dishes, Better than nothing. We've got to do a little bit deeper level. At least say the words, I regret, because I don't want suffering. You've got to link between regret and not wanting suffering. It kind of energizes. And I must not ever break my vows. And then the more strong that decision, you won't break your vows. That's the point of it. Do you understand? Good. Let's go to bed. 5 to 9. Hang your britches on the line. That's an old saying from when you were a child. Isn't it something ditty? Isn't it? Must have been, yeah, something from school days. So let's just dedicate all our virtue today. We didn't do any meditation tonight, but never mind. Let's just do a few. Where's that multiplying mantra? 266. Well, why don't we just do a nice little dedication. The final Lamrim dedication. Let's do that, okay? Page 263. Just read it. 263. Excuse me. Because we've done all the Lamrim and we're nearly at the end. Excuse me. So from my two collections, remember that means your collection of wisdom, your collection of merit, okay? Vast as space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discussed them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by even this graded path to enlightenment, completed due to the wondrous, virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. Or heirs is the one, they say it's, never mind, heirs. Rinpoche likes to say son, but it means like the prince of the king. That's like heir to the throne, so heirs is a good word. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. And so now we just sing the long life prayers of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and His Holiness Dalai Lama, which were way back somewhere. And the red business, the red one right there. We'll just do a few dedications today. Okay, 235. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. And over to the left, may the precious view of emptiness that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has not diminished but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with a dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones, thus gone of the 3 times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect, pure Losang Drakpa to shine forever. There's one more prayer that Muthu likes us to do. I'll just say it, okay? So we who I, meaning your I, when you say it, you think your I, who am empty of existence from my own side, dedicate all this merit from this marvelous day to day, which is completely empty from existence from its own side, to all sentient beings who are empty of existence from their own side, so that, and that may I become a Buddha, which is empty of existence from its own side, as quickly as possible for the sake of all these suffering sentient beings who are empty of existence from their own side. Thinking like that. And now do the long life prayers, which are somewhere. 2, 4, 4, good. Alright, 4, 4, 2, 4, 4. Okay, there we go. Gangri Rawe, Korwe Jingam Dir, Pendang Dewa Malu Jongwene, Chenre Zigwang Tenzin Gyatso Yi, Shape Site Bardu Tengyurchi. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers, honouring the 3 jewels, Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. And then the multiplying mantras. To multiply all the virtue of everything we've done today on this marvellous day of merit. As it says, yes, it's to increase by 100,000 times the merit created. So, Somden De, Dejen Shekpa, Tra, Trompa, Yang, Dakpa, Zope, Sangye, Nampa, Nante, Urki, Gelpola, Chak, Selo, Janchor, Sempa, Sempa, Chenpo, Kuntu, Zangpo, La, Chak, Selo, Tayata, Panchagriya, Awa, Bodani, Soha, Om Duru Duru Jaya Mukhe Soha, Tayata Panchagriya Awa Bodani Soha, Om Duru Duru Jaya Mukhe Soha, Tayata Panchagriya Awa Bodani Soha, Om Duru Duru Jaya Mukhe Soha, Tayata Panchagriya Awa Bodani Soha, Om Duru Duru Jaya Mukhe Soha, Tayata Panchagriya Awa Bodani Soha, Om Duru Duru Jaya Mukhe Soha, Tayata Panchagriya Awa Bodani Soha, Om Duru Duru Jaya Mukhe Soha, Chomden De Dejen Shekpada Jompayan Dapa Zope Sange, Mengihla Bedurya Utki Gyopola Chachelo, Chomden De Dejen Chekpada Jompayang Dapa Zope Sangye, Noa Dangman Lam Tamche Rabtu Drupe Gyopola Chachelo. Through the power of the blessings of the eminent Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the power of infallible dependent arising, and the power of my pure soul, may all my pure prayers succeed immediately. So one more thing we should do before we finish the last dedication prayer, go back to precepts, and we do the mantra 7 times to purify any mistakes that we made in a day. And the precept is fairly close to the beginning. What do you 24? Okay, there we go. And the mantra is on page 31. We do 7 times, okay? Just to purify any mistakes we made today in the keeping of our vows perfectly. Om Amoga Shila Sambara Bara Bara Mahashuddha Sato Pema Vebokite Butsa dara dara samanta avalokite humpe soha. Om Amoga Shila Sambara Bara Bara Mahashuddha Sato Pema Bebokite Butsa Dara Dara Samanta Avalokite Humpe Soha. Om Amoga Shila Sambara Bara Bara Mahashuddha Sato Pema Bebokite Butsa Dara Dara Samanta Avalokite Humpe Soha. Om Amoga Shila Sambara Bara Bara Mahashuddha Sato Pema Vibhokite Butsa Dara Dara Samanta Avalokite Humpe Soha. Om Amoga Shila Sambara Bara Bara Mahashuddha Sato Pema Vibhokite Butsa Dara Dara Samanta Avalokite Humpe Soha. Om Amoga Shila Sambara Bara Bara Sato Pema Vibhokite Butsa Dara Dara Samanta Avalokite Humpe Soha. Om Amoga Shila Sambara Bara Bara Mahashuddha Sato Pema Vibhokite Butsa Dara Dara Samanta Avalokite Humpe Soha. Now the final dedication prayer on the very back page, practically. 2-6 something. 267. Final dedication prayer. End of the day dedication prayer. By pacifying all the signs of obstacles and by perfecting every single required condition, may the Dharma tradition of the Dharma King Tsongkhapa be preserved and developed. Due to the 2 types of merit collected over the 3 times by myself and others, may the teaching of the far-famed victorious one's pure wisdom blaze forth. And remember, all these prayers, all they are aspirations. And aspirations are wishes, and everything exists on the tip of the wish. This is what intention is. Strongly stating intention. That's all the prayers are. Stating these amazing goals and wishes in your mind, sowing the seed for exactly that. So it's so easy to create virtue. Just say these marvelous words, and leave great seeds in the mind, and will ripen them just the way you wish. So good nights, and watch your dreams, and when you wake up in the morning, be a big shock that you didn't die yet. What? Same as usual, back to normal. Yep, I think so. And tomorrow's our last day of Guru. So normal day, normal time. Finish at 4 tomorrow. We might not have a discussion group, squeeze it all in. But we're finished. We've kind of done what I wanted to do. You know, the Lamrim, everything, as well as Vajrasattva. So we'll talk about a bit more about emptiness tomorrow, and we'll talk about Tantra, where that fits in the whole package, you know. And yeah, thank you everybody. Good night.